I grew up hearing stories about my Uncle Gil, older brother to my mum Noreen from this church. The times he held my mum, 10 years younger than him, over the well at their farm, kicking and screaming. The many hours they enjoyed singing at the piano together through the years. His love of literature and music and good fun. His skill and charisma as a teacher and preacher, and other stories. Gil Reimer was the son of Ben-El and Elizabeth Reimer of this church. He was sent by our church as a missionary to Panama, and he lost his life in that service 50 years ago this February. Today we want to remember Gil, his service on behalf of Steinbach EMC, and the cost as well as the legacy of his life of service. You may have seen a piece of Panamanian art in the foyer with a plaque, and now you'll have a little more background. Gil grew up on the family farm in Twin Creek near Steinbach. After graduating from Steinbach Bible Institute, now SBC and the U of M, he taught in rural Manitoban schools. Gil's older brother Cliff and his wife Diana were also sent to Panama by our church and taught in an MK school there. After visiting Cliff and Diana in Panama, Gil decided to apply with GMU, now called Avant, to go serve in Panama as well. Gil met Jean Little, another Canadian who already worked as a church planter in Panama. They married in 1962 and were commissioned and sent out by Steinbach EMC as missionaries to Panama in 1963. There, Gil worked as a pastor in a Santiago church and then as a seminary professor for Panamanian youth. The way I heard it, he was very skilled in language, preaching in Spanish after 4 months. Gil and Jean's 2 children, Glenn and Betts, were born in Panama. My mom treasures the summer she spent in Panama with their family as a short-term worker in 1971. Stories from that summer with Gil include a pretty fantastic adventure together with cockroaches, which you could ask her about. My cousin Corinne, daughter to Cliff and Diana, says this: Uncle Gil was charismatic. He was one of those individuals who lit up a room and made you feel as though the fun was about to begin. If we were able to convince him to play Flight of the Bumblebee on our plattered piano when he came down from upcountry to give us lessons, it was magical. Many of my memories of Uncle Gil involve music or Scrabble games with Dad. The mental image that defines him for me is of him standing in front of the Panama missionary cohort of the time, wearing his lime green Pana Brisa shirt, leading us all in a singing of And Can It Be? In 1973, Gil and Jean moved to Panama City to begin a witness to university students and conduct Bible studies with the motive of beginning an urban church. Another story that has come up often in our family is that year, Gil told my mom that the following year they would be coming home on furlough and it would be handy if she would get married that August. He even wrote it on her calendar. She was not at that time dating anyone. But the following February, after Gil died, my dad, who had also recently lost a brother, sent her a sympathy card. The card turned into letter writing, and they did end up getting married the week Gil had planned for it. Gil's ministry came to an abrupt end 50 years ago, February, when he was abducted and murdered. Jean had just turned 40, Glenn was 10, and Bet's 8 years old. Last week in Arlene Friesen's sermon on the cost of service, she referred to Jim Elliot's words. These were also meaningful and often quoted by Gil. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. In addition to his work among many in Panama, Gil's legacy includes his family who went on to further ministry. Auntie Jean taught for many years at Briarcrest Bible College. Glenn and Ruth, with their family of 3 sons, served in missions in Mongolia and then in a restricted country in Africa. Currently, Glenn is a pastor working among Indigenous communities in Saskatoon. Betts, along with her husband Bevan and 2 children, served with the Greiner Family Musical Ministry in Philadelphia for many years. Today, we remember Gil for his dedicated service to God through his love for all people and his faithful teaching ministry. Philippians 1, verse 21, for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain.